Welcome to the 5 a.m. grind. Aris, how's it going?
It's going well. How's it going with you?
Yeah, not bad. It's middle of January already. 2021
Yeah.
seems to be going by pretty quick.
And Ontario's in its second lockdown.
Second lockdown. Yeah. Feels like it's going to be almost a year of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Pretty
You know,
soon.
last year when they did the lockdown, I
Yeah.
didn't see it coming. Like it was all
Yeah.
of a sudden.
Yeah,
Were you
yeah.
shocked, just as shocked as I was?
Just
or-
as I think we talked about this when we covered the COVID podcast, but nonetheless,
Oh.
like I remember when we went into lockdown back in March, a lot of people thought it was going to be a 2-week lockdown, just March break, and then we're
Yeah.
going to be back to work.
Yeah. It's
Right?
crazy, man.
And now it's
It's a
been
year.
almost a year.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. So, moving on to today's topic, I thought we'd cover how do you stay motivated? So, just motivation in general. And the questions that for today that I picked are what does motivation mean to you? What is your biggest source of motivation? How do you stay motivated in your work and in your life? And last but certainly not least, how do you how do you recharge when you lose motivation? All right. So, what does motivation mean to you? I feel like motivation, is a word that's used by a lot of people. It's
Yeah.
bandied around. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're not motivated enough. You should be motivated." But what does it really mean? What does motivation mean to you?
Motivation, for me,
Yeah.
for me, it's something that gets me up in the morning.
Gets you up in the
I
morning.
guess. And,
Yeah.
And when you don't want to do something, it gets you to keep going.
Right. Yeah, it's like I'd say it's like the fuel, right? It's
Yeah.
like motivation's basically fuel.
Yeah.
It's what keeps you going. It's what makes you get up in the morning.
Yeah.
It's that when you're telling yourself, "Oh, I really don't want to work out today." It's like that power that tells you,
Yeah.
that willpower that tells you, "Hey, just go work out. You'll feel good after
Yeah.
this." Right?
Yeah,
That's what it
100%.
really is. So what's your biggest source of motivation?
Oh man, I think throughout my life, my
Yep.
source of motivation has evolved, and I don't mean by in the beginning, for perhaps I was motivated to get a degree, and now I'm motivated to get money.
Yeah.
I just found that as I got older,
Yeah.
motivation, I for me to be motivated, it was I had to draw out more long-term visionary principles, and then discipline myself to go and execute on that, even when I didn't feel like it. Whereas when I was younger, it was like very quick, and as quickly as I got motivated, it was as quick as I just didn't want to do it
Completely
anymore.
lost it. Yeah, interesting.
Easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
Right. So what about you?
I'd say, yeah, it's evolved as well. I think when I was young, primary source of motivation was probably, it was kind of superficial with things around you. It was like things like, oh, I want to do this so people don't laugh at me, or I want to be
Yeah.
perceived as a success by my family, friends, cousins, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you did, and everybody does this. You do things because you want to please the people around you, or you want to look good in front of other people. It's what
Yeah.
sort of drives you. And like everybody knows, as you grow older, you realize, oh, that's very superficial. It doesn't last as long. It's very fleeting. I think now, though, sources of motivation, it's more centered around values for me,
Yeah.
right? Things that motivate me now, I'd say number one is the things like family, right? Just taking care of my family and just being, the idea now is having a career and trying to be successful in your business in order to support your family and see them grow, right? Because you have a responsibility towards your family. That's one. And the other thing as well, and I think you realize this as you hit your 30s as well, it's like you ask yourself, what will the world remember me for? Will I just be a statistic? Will I just be, someone who works a job and then dies and then just leaves? And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people live a perfectly good life doing that. But I think sometimes in your 30s, you ask yourself, what am I working for? What is
Yeah.
all this for? Like,
Yeah.
where am I going to? What do I want to do in this world?
But I would say that when you're saying what's the world going to remember me for, it's
Yeah.
not about just getting really big on Twitter or Instagram.
No. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
about your family and it's
Yeah.
about your kids. How are they going to remember
Right.
you?
Like legacy
your
type
friends,
stuff.
yeah.
Legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to
Yeah.
like social media presence
Yeah,
or
yeah.
presence
What are you leaving
somewhere.
behind?
Yeah, what am I leaving behind?
Yeah.
Like what are people going to remember me for?
Yeah.
Or what is the impact that I'm going to have
Yeah.
on earth while
So,
I'm
so
here?
would you say it's reasonable to state that your motivation went from when you were younger, it was more external,
Yeah.
and then it moved more internal as you got older.
That's actually a very good
Yeah.
way to put it. Yeah, I'd say that for sure. Yeah, it's become more internal. And I find that these internal sources of motivation
Yeah.
are sort of longer lasting
Yeah.
as well, right?
Because it's not tied with the feeling. I feel like when I was younger,
Yeah.
I'd have like, oh, okay, wow, I just really got a good idea. Oh, well, and then you start imagining things, and you're like so far ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
And then the first roadblock you get, you're like, I don't feel good anymore. And
Yeah,
you lose
yeah,
that
yeah.
motivation, and it's hard to
Right.
get it back.
Right,
You might
right,
get
right.
it back, but for the most part, you're just not as kind of like persistent.
Right, right. That's so
Right.
true. Let me ask you a question actually around this too. And I've noticed this about myself. Do you find you're more driven now than you were when you were younger?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
How crazy is that though?
Yeah,
That is
nah,
so
yeah.
counterintuitive.
I had more energy when I was younger.
Yes,
Okay?
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And everybody does.
Yeah.
But I bet you're probably more driven now than you were when you were young.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I
without
find
a
it
doubt.
it's so interesting how that happens to people.
But
in their
dude,
lives.
there's a few things that that develop that motivation now, because
Yeah.
when again, when I was younger,
Yeah.
like you said, external, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, what are my parents gonna think of me, right? What's my dad gonna think of me?
Yeah.
All these things, and you're doing all these things that you don't want to do. Sometimes you don't even understand,
Yeah.
and you're moving towards a goal that you feel like maybe will please others.
Yeah.
I feel like as I got older, there was more meaning brought into everything.
Right. Right.
Like, so
yeah.
for example, if you're starting a business, there is that element where you're going to be taking care of your family. You want to leave that legacy. There's all these other things, but there's also taking or being a productive and meaningful part of society overall as well, right? So if you're an accountant and you are helping people conduct their business,
Yeah.
and if it makes their business go further, that's motivating. It's gratifying.
It is.
Right?
It is 100%.
So it's,
yeah.
it's like something that it brings real value and meaning to yourself and those around you.
It really does. It really does. You're absolutely right. The funny thing about this as well is that when you're younger, you tend to say a lot of like, "Oh, I'm really busy with this." You know,
Yeah.
you make up excuses about why you can't do something.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really busy this, really busy that. But I bet you're busier now than you
Yeah.
were when you were younger.
Yeah.
Yet you're doing more as well,
Yeah.
which is hilarious.
But you know what it was? I feel like when I was younger,
Yeah.
everything was so classified. I mean, not classified, regimented.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because you're like, all right.
This is
from-
my school stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
This-
yeah.
And this is my school
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And this
yeah.
is my time to watch TV. And this
Right.
is my time to do this.
Right.
And then like, okay, well, I was like from 9 to 3 or 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
I went to school and that's it. Now I can't do that work at 6 or
Yeah,
7.
yeah, yeah.
Right? Or on a weekend. Weekend is for me to sleep in.
Yeah.
Right? So like if I don't sleep in, then like it makes no sense. So I feel like now it's more like you're living life, right?
Right.
So when I'm really into the zone and I know myself better, I'm going to be working through the night, over a weekend, whatever. If I don't feel it, I can also step back and just take a break,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of recover and then try it again.
And then keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep going. It's interesting stuff for sure. So how do you stay motivated in work and then in life in general? Because like you just mentioned, you sometimes work weekends and stuff, sometimes in the evenings. I know you especially as well aren't a big fan of taking a lot of vacation time
No.
either. So
I
how do
don't
you do
think
that?
I've
How do you
taken a
yeah
vacation
yeah
in
yeah
years.
I know. So how do you do
Last
that?
time
How
was
do you,
when we went to
when we went skiing? Yeah,
Yeah.
this was what 2018, 2017.
2017.
Oh wow! And then before that, when did you take a vacation?
I don't
Before
know.
2017.
I think
You
it's
can't
also
remember.
a cultural thing, right?
Yeah.
I just grew up where you didn't really take vacation, and if you
Right.
had some time off, you went overseas to see family.
Yep. Yeah.
That was your
yeah.
vacation,
Right. Okay.
But there was the concept of going somewhere to have fun.
Yeah. That wasn't.
That wasn't it. And it's not still something that I would do. I'm not
Mhm.
saying it's wrong, but that's just, I guess, how.
How,
my
yeah.
mindset
Yeah.
is.
Everybody's different. But yeah. Okay. So on this point, then,
Yeah.
how do you try and stay motivated?
I'll tell you something. Like last night,
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep at all because I was up all night. So our organization, there's a serious pivot coming, and there's a lot of factors that led us to this point.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, I am just kind of creating scenarios in my mind as to what's going to happen, what do I need to understand, what to need to figure out. If A happens, do I do B? B happens, do I do C?
Yeah.
The biggest thing I feel like that motivates me in those situations and any other situation is the desire to understand.
Okay.
Right? And I think that is my biggest. It's not about feeling good anymore. It's about knowing what the right answer is. Not that I'll ever get it, but I would want to attempt to understand how I would do different things.
Right. So
Right.
understanding the problem, coming to a solution, that sort of thing. Interesting.
Just creative thinking, just like all of that kind of motivates.
Right. Now you work a lot of evenings and weekends as well.
Yeah.
How do you find the motivation to do that? Like, do you sometimes schedule time off? Like, how do you sort of balance that?
I think that I had a bit of an issue. I'm not gonna lie. Like even over weekends,
Yeah.
I would only be thinking about work.
Okay.
And so then I had to kind of block off, and I try to block off either a Saturday or a Sunday,
Yeah.
where I force myself not to think about work. And I'm not saying it's like an all day endeavor.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
a
like
few
a few hours where it's like, all right, I don't care what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about
You're not
anything.
thinking about work.
And
Right.
it's just to recover, to kind of gain that. It's like going to the gym. If you're going to the gym, there's only, as you get stronger, you can go to the gym more often and for longer, but you can't
Yeah.
be there all the time.
Right. I guess this brings me to something related to this question of how you stay motivated between like your work and your life. How do you balance everything? So, having a lot of motivation is good. You're very driven. It pushes you in life. You get far. You achieve your objectives, your goals, etc. But how do you balance it out between staying motivated and having that, drive and motivation, and then sometimes taking a bit of a break? How do you balance the two?
I think it's more muscle fatigue.
Yeah.
But the thing is I find work to be more of a spiritual exercise.
Okay.
Because if you approach work as in, again, I'm doing this so I could like show that I've got this crazy car, this crazy business, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's not something that I would lose motivation very quickly.
Right.
But when I look at it from when I'm doing work, I am trying to be present in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get rid of my ego.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just doing the work, even though it may not be the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of helps me, actually makes me allows me to work longer, but it also allows me to just spiritually develop myself and kind of lose the ego.
Yeah.
I know this is so sidetracking.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my way of staying motivated. My motivation is the loss of like basically the ego if you keep doing the work.
Yeah. You just touched on something which I thought was interesting. Do you think money is a big motivator for you? I feel like this is pretty controversial question.
No, I don't think so.
Honestly?
I don't think so. I think okay, in what sense do you or like money for me to spend?
Well,
right?
yeah, that, and then just acquire material possessions. Like, let's be honest, you need money if you're gonna say family is a motivator for you. Like to support your family, you need money, right?
Yeah, but
Right?
I mean, like if you've got food on the table, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be a minimalist or anything.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
but if
yeah,
you got
okay.
food on the table, you've got like a warm house.
Yeah.
Right. You've got a car.
Yeah.
Right. And even a car is a luxury, but like, you've got that. Like, I'm thankful. Like, right now, to be honest, I don't think I've had a material desire for the past few years.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? For me,
Okay.
it's just like, I mean, there is a money as in, whoa, if I could do this.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
right,
cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
It touches a lot of people, and
Yeah.
I know it touches a lot of people because look at this.
Right,
number, it's pretty big. Right? Now you could give that money away; it doesn't really matter. Right?
Yeah.
I do feel like, in that sense, you should be giving that money away because you only need so much in life, and the more you start spending on yourself, the more
needs you have, the bigger those needs are.
It's never gonna end.
No, it's funny.
You got to stop it. Somewhere.
I'd say for me, I'm not gonna lie. Like honestly, maybe I'm not trying to say this, but money is definitely a motivator for me. It definitely
in
is.
like what sense?
Up to a certain point. Well, like I said, I think in order for you to support your family and your lifestyle and stuff like that, you do need money. Like let's say, I don't know, let's say you're a family, you're used to taking a trip every summer, taking a trip in the winter, having a certain kind of car, having a certain kind of home. I think to sustain that requires a certain level of income.
No, don't get me wrong. I do believe you need a certain. I'm motivated to earn a certain level.
Yes.
Right?
And I could easily justify earning a little more, no problem. We could create needs for that. But I think yeah, up to a certain point. I'd say once you have a decent home and a decent car, and then that's it, and then the rest of it is just to, it's either to create a legacy, to give away, etc.
Yeah.
The only fear that I have is which is a trap I think a lot of people get caught up is, you know, it's like once you make this much money, you have this kind of a lifestyle, then you make more, then your lifestyle increases as well. Then everybody's like, oh, well, this is the new normal now. I guess this is
No,
funny.
I think for a short while, I mentally did fall into something like that where I want like a faster car or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I still would want a nice
yeah.
car.
You like your cars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and it motivates me in that, like, oh, it'd be nice to get, but am I going to be specifically working for something like that, or would I beat myself over the head if I didn't get it? Not really. Or is it like a need that I have? No. It's something that, like, oh, it'd be nice to have. It's nice to daydream. But the reason I'm going after the success or whatever my goals are separate from these list of material things that would be nice to have.
Yeah. Right. So how do you reconcile when like in the do what people think about you, does that matter anymore for you? That mattered, you said, when you were younger. Does it matter now?
To be honest,
like the car you drive, the things you have, etc., etc. Do you think that motivates you at all? Do you, like, to a certain extent? I feel like a lot of people say, "Oh, don't think about what other people think," which is absolutely true.
Yeah,
you shouldn't.
Easier said
right?
than done.
But easier said than done.
Yeah.
We are humans at the end of the day. Social acceptance and social status is determined by what kind of a car this person drives, how they're dressed, how they look, blah blah blah, etc., etc. You know, human beings always say, "Don't judge a book by its cover," but they always judge a book by its cover. This is what we do,
100%.
right? And it's like our nature since, like, I don't know, the beginning of time. We've been like this, right?
I mean,
does that stuff, sometimes drive you, sometimes motivate you.
You've known me long enough to know that I do a lot of dumb things all the time. I don't know. So I don't know if it affects me like, oh my God, I want people to think of me a certain way. Not like to say that nobody can have an effect on me. Like, I think my dad could have or still does have a strong effect on me. Right? I think he's probably the one person who has the most effect on me in every single way. Even now, like, if I'm like, oh man, it doesn't really matter. If I tell myself it doesn't matter what he says, he could say the smallest thing. It's just to put me off
it
course.
Just throws you off course. Yeah.
But like everybody else, I feel like, to some extent it was more than now that I cared about what other people felt, but I don't think it was ever as strong for me to kind of please others.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Do you know why I asked this? Because I noticed with me, especially in my 30s as well, I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder, and that's been a source of motivation for me. And that chip really came from a lot of people who said that, hey, you can't do this, and I don't think this guy will succeed. That when people say Ali, you can't do X. That to me is like, that is an amazing source of motivation. It's like Michael Jordan as well, right? He used to take, like, I don't know, do you watch The Last Dance? You should, if you haven't. Okay, you should definitely watch it. But anything somebody said on the court, just a little bit, he used to let that piss him off and just like absolutely crush that team.
Oh, wow.
And it's the same thing with me too now. Like that, I know it's crazy, but as soon as someone says, I don't believe you can do this, or I don't think you can do this, or whatever it is, something like that, I'm like, dude, let me prove you wrong. Like that is an immense, and I find that sort of motivation is absolutely huge. Like it's like, it's like you channel anger into just pure work, which is insane.
I mean, I guess it's to each their own type of thing. Because I know that in 50 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, I believe it's one of those where it's one of his books where he says that, like, your enemies can define you and they're a great source of motivation and all of that. So I know that works for a lot of people. But I don't know if it's worked for me. I just felt like, I don't know, mentally, if somebody said you can't do A, B, and C, my mindset would be immediately like, I don't, like, okay, you're not somebody, I'm not going to give you.
You're not going to care about what this person thinks.
I'm not going to give you the respect or that value in my life to have that kind of carry weight.
Right. I think for me, it's not that the person is saying, oh, you can't do something stupid. It's not something stupid. I'm just saying, like, let's say this person says, you can't build a business. You can't, I don't know, start a podcast, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
I usually for me that's a pretty good source of motivation. And it's not that I care about what this person
Yeah.
like says, and I usually am like you. I don't care about this person, don't care about what
Yeah.
they said. But it's usually when somebody doubts my ability or questions it, I'm like, there's no way. Nobody can
So
question
are you
what
okay?
I'm
So hold
capable
on. So
of.
maybe this is more like you're not necessarily trying to prove them wrong. You've created a state of mind which you're using to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the person who said it,
Yeah.
but it's that thought that they've created that you're trying to now.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because in my head, it's always like,
Yeah.
you know what? Once I'll build this, whatever it is that they're
Yeah.
like, let's say it's a business, right? Once I build the business, nobody's gonna remember who the person was that said I can't do it, right?
Yeah, and
But
it's not like you're
cares.
gonna go back and be
Yeah,
like,
and
oh,
tell them,
like,
hey, look at this.
yeah,
No, my
yeah,
success will speak for itself,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
not like I'm gonna go back and shove it in their face. What's that
Yeah.
gonna do? Yeah, but I think, yeah, that's become a big, big source of motivation for me lately as well. It's just like, yeah, a lot of those people who doubted me, I want to prove them wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Interesting sources of motivation. So I guess when you lose motivation in life, sometimes, not everybody can be motivated all the time. Sometimes, like you mentioned, you're just tired. You don't want to get up or you don't
Yeah.
want to do something. How do you try and recharge? One, and then how do you go back to it?
I think I look at two different things. For me,
Yep.
first, like sometimes I lose motivation if I'm like exhausted. If there's just a lot going on and the output has been a lot,
Yeah.
then I'm going to. You just start getting tired, and you're like, because motivation is also a mental muscle, right?
Yeah.
So
It's not unlimited. It's
Yeah.
sometimes limited,
yeah,
right? Like even willpower, they say like willpower is also
yeah. So you gotta like have it like you gotta
limited.
focus it on a few things, and then
Yep.
you also have to like give it a rest. So I'll take a rest and then I'll come back to it. So
Yeah.
now if I come back to it and I still feel like, oh man, I don't want to do this or I can't do this or whatever, you know what? Like I will give myself 5 minutes, and kind of vent to myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, all right, now that we're done, let's
Yeah,
get back
yeah.
to work.
Get back to work. Right. Yeah.
So the discipline kicks in, right? It's
Yeah.
not a matter of whether it feels good or if you want
Yeah.
to do it, you have to do it.
Right. Do you do something? Maybe, I don't know, do exercise or walk, whatever it is, to sometimes, sort of recharge?
I will walk to clear my mind,
Yeah.
or I will just sit there, meditate, pray,
Yeah.
and just like empty everything out. I think praying helps a lot because at least, and I know that everybody kind of prays a bit differently, and I'm not sure what's right or what's wrong.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure everybody has their
Yeah.
own opinions.
Yeah.
But when I pray, I think for me, prayer means to lose yourself. It's not necessarily to, hey, God, or universe, whatever you want to say. But like, I want A, B, and C, right? It's really understanding that your existence is very nominal, if
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so then when you realize that, all your issues become nominal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you
You're
can get
very
back to
small
it.
in a big world,
Yeah,
in a very
yeah.
big world. Yeah.
And I mean, not to deter anyone, right?
Yeah.
So when they're thinking like that, it's not that, it's just more like, okay, that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Right? And all of our issues are pretty nominal. Most of our issues.
Yeah.
Not all
Yeah.
of
A
them.
lot of first world problems.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's at
Yeah,
least
yeah,
for
yeah,
that's what I'm
food and
facing.
stuff. Yeah. It's always first world
Yeah.
problems. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I'd say for me, in terms of recharge and stuff, like unlike you, you know me, I'm a proponent of taking vacation, taking time
Yeah,
off. I think
yeah.
that's important, and sometimes just cutting loose,
Yeah.
taking time off, whatever it is. And I do, like, as you know, I'm into running, I'm into photography
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I feel like those are good outlets to just completely clear your mind, just focus on whatever it is, something creative, staying active, like using a completely different muscle in your body. I think all of that helps. And I think it's just, in life, you tend to learn that, like you said, motivation is limited, willpower is limited, right? You can't keep those things going all the time. Sometimes you just need to take a bit of a break, and you realize that life is really, it's a long marathon. It's not a short
Yeah.
run.
100%. That is the biggest
It's
thing.
a marathon, so you
Yeah.
need the energy, and I think you get better at this when you're older too. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna use a few spurts of energy
Yeah.
here, take it my time,
Yeah.
and then get it right,
I think it's
instead of like going all out at once and
Yeah.
then burning yourself out.
there was and I think I forwarded you this video as well, with that billionaire investor Chamath, and I don't know how to pronounce his name
Chamath
properly.
Palihapitiya,
Yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Canadian. For those of you who are in the U.S.
So-
listening to this,
He was saying it's better to build a company that is a slow burn and you're increasing 15% each year,
Yeah.
then like 90% in 1 year, and then the next year, or like as quickly as it takes to build a company is as quickly as it's going to take to break it down.
Right.
So
Right.
if
So
you
when
could do
you go up really
90%,
quick, you're
yeah,
gonna come
yeah,
down really hard.
yeah. So if it's like 90% return first year, whatever, then you're gonna plateau and you're gonna come down really quickly as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
if you're doing 15% each year and you take 10 years to build a company, it's gonna take you 10 years to break it down. Now, I mean, I don't know the merits of that, right? I think, but by principle, I do feel like that. I feel like it's right, because when you are building it fast, you don't really understand it. You may think you understand it, but you're not really taking in all of the opportunities that you could. And you're
Yeah.
just looking for that growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So I guess I'll add one more question to the four we just covered. But if you had some advice to give someone who isn't motivated, right, who's just sort of going through this rough patch in life, they're
Mhm.
not really motivated. What would you tell them? How do you get motivated if you're going through a really tough time?
First of all, I would want to know why they're not motivated.
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes people do have difficult things going on in their lives.
Yeah.
Someone passing away, just financial and economic situations.
Yeah.
Those are all serious things, and those are things that, for those people who are facing them, they should really seek help when they need to. But it's about kind of coming to terms with it, right?
Yeah.
With that kind of pain. I don't know why this is getting deep. But
Yeah.
But for most people,
Yeah.
I feel like for the majority of people, it's laziness. And it's about, like, I'm losing motivation because I did not get the right reaction fast enough,
Yeah.
right? If you're looking for reactions, if you're looking for people to, like, basically tell me that I'm right, right? Even if you're looking for profits to some extent, if you're starting a business right away, I don't think that's the right way to go. Your motivation should be understanding the truth. And so when you fail, it actually does the inverse. Instead of taking away motivation, it gives you more motivation because you have a greater need to understand what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, interesting stuff.
What
Interesting
about you?
stuff. Yeah, if someone was going through a rough time, I'd say, you know what, take some time, just meditate, like you said, take some time off, recharge, find out what's really meaningful to you in life, and then look for that to motivate you in other aspects of your life. So whether that's in work and whatever it is that you're trying to pursue, try to come back to, I'd say, first principles, and go back to what it is that sort of motivates you. And I'd say for me as well, it's tough. It's tough. If you look at, and there's no right or wrong answer as well, like when it comes to motivation, like you kind of said, if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs as well, just like we kind of discussed at the beginning of this podcast, when we were young, we told ourselves, oh, we're busy, and we thought we're motivated, but we're not really. We had a ton of energy, but we never really sort of deployed that energy well, right? And I tend to find, if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs as well, some of them tend to be, they're not very good in school. They've sort of meandered through life, and then something just kicks and they just go, like it goes into hyperdrive mode or something, right? They just find an idea, they strike something, they meet someone, whatever it is, and then it just takes off. Would you say, like, are you into this whole thing about coaching, mindset building?
I feel like it could be very useful, 100%, but I just feel like there's a lot of fake coaches out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of garbage.
Of, like, 95, 99% of it is, like, people who are just like, okay, well, I mean, they're trying to sell you courses online or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't think that's, like, something that's, and when they are doing that, they're only coaching. The coaching that you're going to get is basically hearing what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's not real coaching. You need somebody who says it as it is. You're going to feel bad, but they also uplift you.
They uplift you too. So. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'd say for me as well, I think it's helpful. Like, I mean, I don't have a formal coach. A lot of people say that, hey, you know what, having a coach is important because just like if you go to a gym, you have a personal trainer, right? You should have a business coach as well. I haven't personally done it, but it's something worth looking into. It's something probably that I'm going to try to look into, but I certainly find it helpful. Sometimes listening to stuff from like Tony Robbins, whatever it is, some other podcasts online, it's that podcasts such as ours, I definitely find it helpful sometimes just to, think about, oh, I'm going through this problem. I'm thinking about this. How are other people thinking about it? It's just sometimes pretty cool. All right, so key takeaways on motivation then?
Find what motivates you and stick to it.
Yeah.
And evolve.
Yeah, evolve. I'd say, you know what, motivation's definitely not consistent. We all have our
Right.
ups and downs. Take the time to recharge, find that motivation, and then keep pushing forward. All right. That was
Take care,
good.
guys.